Welcome everyone, another edition of Challenged Athletes Live. My name is Bob Babbitt, co-founder of Challenged Athletes Foundation, and we have three amazing guests. Jessica Long, 23 Paralympic medals, 13 golds, unbelievable. Haven Shephard, 2021 Paralympic hopeful, and Senior Communications Manager from Bridgestone, Mr. Keith Cawley. How's everybody doing? And I want to start with you, Keith. I looked at your background. I love the fact that you came from your sports director at WRCB TV in Chattanooga. So you're a guy, writer, shooting, editing, storytelling. Talk a little about your role at Bridgestone and how cool it is to work with athletes like this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolute luck for me, right? As a guy who grew up obsessed with sports, I think as a kid, if you like sports and you get to see the Olympics and the Paralympics and see the world come together to experience those things, you're just captivated by it. And so I was lucky enough to get into TV doing sports broadcasting. I actually worked for 2 NBC stations, which was great because we got to be involved in covering the movement and telling those stories. And so as you grow up and things change in your life and you got a shift in your career, and I went into the corporate world, but I was lucky enough to find a path to still be working in sports and still be telling sports stories. And when you start to meet some of the people along the way that have these amazing stories, you just want to help them tell their own story and get more awareness for the inspirational things they've gone through, the challenges that they've overcome, because you know that they can impact other people. And so that's what we're trying to do at Bridgestone, is work with these athletes, work with the Olympic and Paralympic movement to raise awareness about what people can do and what they can overcome. Certainly sell some tires along the way is what my management would want me to say. But really, for me, it's about telling stories to get those connection points so that people get engaged with the Bridgestone brand.
And how did you connect with CAF? And when you connected with CAF as a storyteller, I'm sure there was a connection there because you could see that CAF sort of lives and breathes off of storytelling.
Absolutely. It's really, when you start to look at it from the brand side, is how can we really create authentic relationships to bring the things we care about to life for the consumers or the fans, right? And from Bridgestone's perspective, we have a long history of being involved in our local communities, going back to our founding in Japan, 90 years ago. We want to work in the local level to make sure that people have access to the things that everybody has a right to in life, being able to move, live, work, and play. And so when we became a worldwide Paralympic partner in 2018, it was, who can we work with to really bring that more to life for us and make an impact at another level? Challenge Athlete Foundation, obviously an international global footprint, a real strong activation across the United States, and just an unbelievable story of what they've been able to do in the lives of so many athletes. And so they became a natural fit for us to try to partner to amplify what they're doing, to help us understand and make connections throughout the Paralympic movement more, and now see where we can both go together to keep making an impact in the lives of athletes from the youth level, the local level, all the way up through the Paralympics.
So Jessica, it's such an honor for me to get to chat with you, because when I look back at your career, I mean, how many people have the presence to be able to go to their first Paralympics when they're 12 years old, right? In 2004 to Athens. Oh, and let's see, I'll do the 100 meters and I'm not just going to win the gold. I'm going to beat the world record holder by 0.19 of a second in my first ever 100-meter final. That's pretty unbelievable. That's called announcing your presence with authority. Talk a little bit about your background and going to the Paralympics, because nobody expected you to go to Paralympics when you're 12 years old. Talk a little about your background and how that led to the Paralympics and led to where you are today.
Yeah, that was definitely a crazy race. My story starts all the way back in Russia. I was put up for adoption by a 16-year-old Russian girl, and due to a birth defect, she just wasn't able to take care of me. And during that time, there was a family in Baltimore, Maryland, who had 2 children, wanted a large family, saw a picture of me in the orphanage, and decided if they were going to Russia, they were going to get another kid. So my dad went to Russia, got me and another little boy. We came home to America. And then it's amazing how everything works out because they had 2 more kids. But, for me growing up, I was really active. I think a lot of that is because, with what I was born with, I had to have so many surgeries. I had to rest and recover. So anytime that I got to move and play and just be active, I loved it. So that was kind of why my parents got me involved in sports. And before swimming, I did gymnastics, but my parents were really afraid that if I kept jumping on my knees, I would really hurt my knees. Because when my legs are off, I walk on my knees. So we found swimming, fell in love with it right away. I was the only girl on the swim team without legs, but I kept going back. And I think for me, it was a place of freedom. It was a place that I felt really strong and capable when I wasn't in the pool, my everyday life, I still struggled, being an amputee. I still had to adapt and learn how to do things. So anytime I was swimming, I loved it. I thought I was a mermaid, a fish. You couldn't get me out of the water, which is, I'm still swimming to this day, 18 years later. But yeah, I ended up going to the Paralympics when I was 12, which was unheard of. Even now that I'm a very seasoned Paralympic athlete, I'm like 12 years old, like that, like feels like another lifetime. But those races, it was amazing. I definitely started my career very high, winning the gold medal as a 12-year-old. But honestly, it's been an incredible journey, and it's been amazing to still have, just to have the opportunity to still swim. I'm 28, but I am so excited for the Paralympic movement to grow and to see the next generation like Haven. It's so exciting to me, and that's honestly why I'm still swimming.
What's fascinating is here's Haven, and if you talk about somebody who's your clone, right here, losing her legs, adopted very young, getting into swimming, going to the Parapans and having success down there in Lima, Peru. Haven, talk a little bit about what meeting Jessica meant to you, and it's so hard to find someone like yourself, right? And for both of you, to find a person who's also a double amputee, who's also a swimmer, who was also adopted at a very young age. Talk a little bit, Haven, about the relationship with you and Jessica and how important that has been.
Well, yeah, and even with CAF, CAF was kind of like the first experience I ever saw people like me, like Rudy, and like just coming out to SETC. That was just such a magical time. And then when you guys invited me to the New York Gala, and then I officially met somebody who was truly just like me, and that was just such a magical experience. And then who would have thought that a week later I would see her at my very first swim meet? And I was just getting out of track at that time. Bob, you were really hopeful for a track runner out of me, but just a week later I saw Jessica, and when she took off her legs, I was like stunned. I was like, oh, she really does look like me. Like her legs are like exactly the same as mine. So that was just really special. Like I found somebody that really did look like me and had my story. And as a little girl growing up in an active household, and like Jessica, I was just raised very active, and just seeing all these able-bodied kids, just kind of, I wasn't left behind, but I always felt like I needed to catch up in a way. And that was such a fear of mine, of just being left behind. And when I saw Jessica and it was just like a little Jimmy Flowers was just like a little meet, but I saw that she won her heat, and I was like, oh my gosh, she looks just like me, and I can be just like her and like do whatever she can do. But at my first swim meeting Jessica, I didn't know how amazing she was at the time, and now, especially now that we're super close. But I was super nervous. I was probably 11 or 12, and I was only swimming 3 races, and I was getting super nervous because I just got out of track and I didn't know how to swim. So, Jessica just came over and just told me, like, it's gonna be okay. Like it's gonna be hard, but you're gonna make it. But when I got done with my race and I saw Jessica at the other end with my towel, as an 11-year-old, I was like, you're my best friend now. Like, just seeing the most decorated Paralympian ever be my towel girl, that was just an amazing feeling.
Jessica, for you, having the medals are great. I'm sure you love the fact that you've won 23 Paralympic medals and 13 golds, but the Havens of the world, that next generation who look up to you, I'm guessing those are the real wins. Those are the real medals, when you are able to motivate somebody through sport to find their best self.
Yeah, it's really it is cool. It's honestly what's keeping me going. And I saw Haven at the gala before she ever saw me. And she was just like dancing around. Were you in a tutu, Haven?
I was in a tutu. I was in a white tutu.
And her legs were showing. And I'm still like a 20-some-year-old girl still dealing with insecurities. And I see Haven dancing around in her tutu with Converse on. Did you have Converse?
Yes, high top Converse.
Yep. And I was just like, who is this girl? Like it's anytime I see a double leg amputee, I'm so excited. And then her mom, Miss Shelley, kind of saw me staring and came over and just started talking to me. And we started talking about Haven, and she told me Haven's story, and I started like pouring my heart out. But it was just an amazing experience to get to meet Haven. And instantly it was like a little sister, just someone that I couldn't get enough of. And Haven has helped me in so many ways. I didn't realize how much she has helped me with just, we have such similar stories, but I am constantly learning from Haven, whether it's to just be kind or smile or let it go. I am so much more uptight and a little bit crazy, and Haven has just taught me so much. But it is definitely, the next generation of people like the next generation of kids like Haven, who has honestly like kept me going. And it's her encouragement, even when I'm frustrated or, going through the swimming, she just pushes me to be a better role model and a better athlete.
So right now you're in isolation, right? You're in Colorado Springs, and you're due to COVID, you have to wait for a number of tests before you can actually get in the pool again.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about how COVID has affected the fact that, like you said, you might not have hung around for another games, except for people like Haven. You didn't really know if you wanted to do that, but now it's delayed a year. Does that make it harder, or does that motivate you even more?
Yeah, I definitely, it's a roller coaster, right? Some days it's great, other days it's hard to get through. And I think, we're all going through a loss, right? Everyone's kind of lost something through this pandemic. And I'm really focusing on the positives. That doesn't mean I don't have bad days or days where I'm just like, wow, like Tokyo would have been done by now. Like, it's crazy, right? But at the same time, I'm very thankful for an extra year of training, an extra year to do what I love. I've got amazing supporters like Bridgestone, Haven, who supports me. I support her. It's definitely been really strange, right? I couldn't swim for 75 days when everything like the lockdown happened, but I'm just trying to view it as a positive that I get an extra year to be even better. And yeah, right now I'm at the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center and just trying to better my swimming and taking it day by day.
So Haven, for you, this extra year, I think we chatted about this before. It's almost a positive, giving you a little more time to get the times you need to potentially make the team and be competitive.
Yeah. If anything, I know how crazy the pandemic was, but I really saw this next year as a good time to just really catch up, because I was traveling so much, and I just switched weight coaches, and trying to get a new schedule. I just felt like this time was a really good time to really balance everything that was happening in my life. And I definitely feel stronger. Going into my senior year, this was really disappointing. After games, I was actually planning on going back to regular school where I could see people. But you know what? I actually have really liked my schedule now. I feel more sure of myself. It was just, I really felt like I was really too young for trials. And last year I felt so young. And even like Jessica said, when she went to games when she was 12, you look back and how young you were. And like, Bob, you saw me at trials, and everybody talks about how amazing trials were for me. And I was like, I was 13. Like that, like I went to summer camp right after that. Like, I'm so young. But, especially going into an international field, and I've done international competitions before, but just being on that level, I really feel like I could have been a year older to experience more things before I was on that level. And so I just think this time right now is really great for me. I swam this morning, so I'm a little tired, but yeah, I've really fallen in love with swimming again. And I got really fearful during the pandemic when I couldn't swim, because I was like, Mom, I am literally useless right now. Like I'm not doing anything. I'm not lifting weights. I'm not doing anything. So yeah.
Hey, Keith, for you, you're managing Bridgestone's Worldwide Olympic Partnership. You also have NFL, NHL, PGA Tour, World Golf Championships, the Bridgestone Invitational, balancing all of that. And, at the same time, like we talked about, storytelling, and you listen to these amazing young women, and then you're dealing with the best professional athletes on the planet, balancing that and what this brings to the table for you when you get to work with these athletes.
Yeah, well, I mean, in balancing all of those partnerships this year, usually it keeps us very busy, but this year was obviously very unique. It's like we've become masters of contingency planning and everything, because you can't predict a week ahead, let alone, across several months. But I think in listening to Jessica and Haven talk about their story and their background, and what I said before is it's about connections, right? And creating authentic connection points and relationships. And I think that's what we've really leaned into even more across, the last several months, is everybody's had to go into isolation in some sort. We're being more disconnected from each other in person, in physical contact, and the ability to interact and have those connections some way to keep us going has become more important than ever. And so like in NFL, we work with Larry Fitzgerald, who's been a great brand ambassador for us. He does a lot of great work in his communities to help kids with virtual technology, right? And making sure they have a way to stay connected, going to class, talking to their friends and their family, trying to find ways in each of our partnerships to do things like that can create real world solutions to a degree, right? And have an authentic feel to what's happening in the world around us. And so when working with CAF and some of the other local adaptive sports organizations that we've been able to partner with, helping them continue to provide the community for their athletes, right? You hear Haven and Jessica talk about how important it is for them to see people like them, right? And to be able to interact and have that network of support. And so really in this time of, maybe kids and young athletes not being able to leave their house and train, giving them a support in a network that can continue to keep them engaged and feeling positive and upbeat is really what any of us are looking for right now, right? Where can we find the silver linings and the smiles and the virtual high fives, as it were? So we're all about using any and all of our sports partnerships because we believe sports are a rallying point, something that everybody can get behind. Usually to some degree, you're a fan of something. And it's just been a really good way for us to create those connections for all of our consumers, but just fans of sport and fellow people.
So Jessica, for next year, what would it mean to you to see Haven make the Paralympic team?
Oh, it would be incredible. I'll be there holding the towel.
My best towel girl ever.
Yes, or your legs. No, it would be incredible. I see Haven working so hard and making those sacrifices. And to me, that's really what it takes. It's not easy. It's very hard. And I'm really proud of Haven for showing up. And even when it's tough, I know it gets tough, she's still putting in the work. So I'm really excited. I've seen her improve so much. And something that's really cool, I don't know if anyone even really knows this, but Haven was coming to Baltimore a few times to train with my coach in Baltimore, just to really work on technique and to see her, in the pool. I was sitting with her mom, we were talking about her technique, and just to see the improvements that she would make even over a weekend, and the fact that she would come back another couple months. And I think she's going back to Baltimore in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she is dedicated, and I love that.
I'll hang out with Lucas.
I know, my husband. That's something I really admire. So I'm really excited. It would mean everything, especially she's like my little sister. So it's super cool.
Yeah. Jessica will be waiting with the towel. If we can get the right credentials, I'll wear the tutu and the Chuck Taylors, and I'll be at the end of the pool as well. We'll complete the circle. It'll be good.
We'll get photos. We'll definitely get photos of that.
That's all the motivation anybody needs, right? Fantastic.
Just don't worry. Just have the most decorated Paralympian ever. Just holding my towel. No big deal.
I love that. Thank you all for taking time to join us on Challenge Athletes Live. You guys are the best. I'll be at the Paralympics, and we'll toast to a number of gold medals from our two amazing young women. You guys are the best. Thank you, everybody, for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
This has been Challenge Athletes Live. My name is Bob Babbitt. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.